Good morning. It is Monday, March 6th, 2023, and this is DC Signal to Noise. Since we last talked, EPA approved year-round availability of E15. But hey, hold on, slow down, touch the brakes on this, not until next year. NCBA and USCA agreed on something, that imports of beef from Brazil should be halted. More Brazilian firms were cleared for export to China. That's to export corn to China. Another Norfolk Southern train derailed in Ohio. And it is championship week for college basketball. Here we go. Welcome to you all. Glad that you're with us. I'm AgriTalk host Chip Flory. That is Pro Farmer Policy Analyst Jim Wiesemeyer. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Chip. We're raring to go.
All right. There's a lot of places that we could start here this morning, Jim. I'm just going to let you pick it. Where do we start?
Well,
and think about what happened last week.
Well, absolutely, Chip. That's why I wanted to start with last week. Late Friday, USDA's FSI, Food Safety Inspection Service, extended the time-limited trial for 6 facilities under that new inspection system for swine. So they want to complete their study. So I think that's a good thing to give them time. And NPPC put out a statement saying to such effect. Last week, as you noted, we did have that train derailment, another one in Ohio, but there was no hazardous materials on it, Chip. But some lawmakers said, well, prior to the most recent derailment, it did contain some, so they want to see if there's any residue, Chip. And we're going to find that out and more this Thursday in the Senate when Norfolk Southern's CEO, Alan Shaw, will testify. So some fireworks could come from that here.
Jim, we talk about how CEOs end up on Capitol Hill and under fire. This is going to be, I don't see any way that this is not going to be an all-out attack on this guy.
From both parties.
Right.
Yeah. And Biden last Thursday backed that bipartisan Senate bill that would so-called strengthen federal oversight of the freight rail system, Chip. So you're always going to see legislation after an accident like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Not so much just last week, but last year. Let's go to this one because the American Farm Bureau Federation put 2022 weather disasters at like $21 billion.
Over 20.
Over 21 billion.
Yeah, and they did a good report. They go by state, by crop, and things like that. We put, you can go to their internet site. You can go to the links on profarmer.com. And that sets the parameter on a discussion, Chip, of 2022 disaster legislation.
Now, what kind of impact might this report have on the farm bill negotiations? Because there's more and more, and you guys did a great job covering this in Pro Farmer last week, but there's more and more focus about on Title I of the Farm Bill, getting rid of the need for the ad hoc disaster payments. How does this Farm Bureau report impact Farm Bill negotiation?
Well, it's fodder for it, okay,
Yeah.
for further discussion, detailed information from Farm Bureau, but you're not going to end all ad hoc disaster. There's just the way the world's going, forest fires, etc. But there is a brewing battle behind closed doors up on the Hill in the ag committees. Some Republicans on the Senate side want to tap some of the around $20 billion, Chip, that was part of authorized conservation funding in the IRA Act. And then that's going to explode some things. So, at first I thought conservation was taken care of, but I think both the leading Republicans on the House, G.T. Thompson, and Bozeman on the Senate, they think all revenue streams should be at least reviewed to see what can be used to improve Title I.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes all the sense in the world to me. I mean, when we talk about the Farm Bill and the source of funding and so on, we talked with Bill Northey on Thursday last week on AgriTalk, and I hit him up on the conservation programs, the climate smart farming programs that USDA is facilitating with the funding from CCC. He had kind of a hard time connecting the dots between CCC funding and climate smart farming practice programs.
Yes.
So there needs to be some rethinking on how to pay for these programs.
Yeah. Well, I like an open debate.
Yeah,
I think it should be debated. So, and that was a hefty figure in the IRA, around $20 billion, even in Washington. That's a chunk of change,
darn right.
Chip. And this Thursday, we're going to get President Biden's, I think, rough outlines of his fiscal year 2024 budget. That starts October 1. I think he'll be in Philadelphia, by the way, when he releases that. I don't know the details. However, I know he'll goad House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California, to say, okay, where's your budget? And
Yeah.
you keep on saying, relative to the debt limit hike or suspension, that Republicans in the House want to significantly cut spending. What are the details? Now, farm state lawmakers privately, Chip, and you can imagine that makes sense. They're really worried about that, because if you put hands off Social Security, Medicare, other major entitlements, you got to whack other programs, and that's going to include agriculture. So they're bracing. Those things won't happen, Chip, but it'll be a political albatross for Republicans going into 2024 elections.
How can they put out the budgets without knowing what the debt ceiling is going to be?
They just, I guess, they assume that they'll do it. Plus, you have still revenue coming in, Chip.
Yeah,
it keeps coming in. So eventually that'll be taken care of. But this debt limit is tying into a lot of different things, and it's forcing some hands here. So crop insurance would have to be cut if you're going to cut overall all programs outside of the major entitlements. They're going to whack agriculture too, and that's not going to be. They're going to have to hide behind some rocks. Meaning farm state lawmakers.
Yeah. Okay. As long as we. Oh, I want to stay on last week here for a second, but I'm going to change gears on you, because this is something that we thought we were going to get last week, and we did not get it, and that was the Supreme Court decision on Prop 12.
It just lingers, that's why I say I always hesitate ever reporting that it's soon, because when is that? I was told early March. Well, it's early March now, so let's see. We don't have it yet, but it's still a critical decision. WOTUS, it's more in Congress right now, but I don't care what Congress does. It's what the Supreme Court does no later than probably June. But Prop 12 should be, could be coming out any day, Chip, and we're going to see on Prop 12 whether or not the Farm Bureau and the MPPC gets a victory here, so California doesn't dictate the pork industry guidelines.
Yeah, when I talked with Ethan Lane, was it last week or even the week before? He was Ethan Lane from NCBA. He was fully anticipating that it was going to be released within a couple of days at that time.
Yeah.
And here we are. We continue to wait for it. Let's stay on meat issues here for a second, because it's like I said in the open, we've actually got National Cattlemen's Beef Association and the U.S. Cattlemen's Association agreeing on something, and that is that imports of beef from Brazil should be banned.
Yeah.
BSE case, it took them 35 days to report it, Jim.
Yeah,
35 days. It's supposed to be a 24-hour turnaround.
Yeah, who do they think they are, China?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is crazy. They're not being a good player when it comes to beef
aren't.
trade.
And but there are guidelines in this area. If you're gonna, because we could be confronted with a situation, and we would want to follow OIE guidelines, Chip. So
Absolutely.
This is called a dilemma. A dilemma.
All right. I already see that Melody and Gary have added some comments here. If you would like to participate in the conversation, have a topic that you would like Jim to address, or make a comment on something that Jim says, which most of us do sometimes, go ahead and hit it in the comment section, and we will get to it. Melody is looking forward to this weekend already. Jim, and is
Set the
wondering,
spring forward, fall backward.
can we please leave our clocks on one setting?
Remember last year we thought it was going to be dealt with?
Yep.
Nope, it's too
Yep.
controversial. Anything in a close Congress that's sensitive, and this is a sensitive issue, pros and cons, it isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So it won't be changed.
Yep. Gary's got an interesting question. He says, "What is the threshold to be considered a minority? Could he take a 23andMe test, and if he finds a small amount of minority in his heritage, does that qualify for some of the equitable efforts at USDA?" I don't know. I don't know what the threshold is.
It's a stat. I don't know either. I thought he was going to say minority. Like, how do you term a minority in Congress is easier if you don't control it. But I can see, it's again sensitive issue. But what part? Yeah, that's true.
I don't know the answer to it.
I don't know either.
I would think that the answer would be there someplace. But
well, in the not too distant future, Caucasians are going to be a minority race in this country.
Right. That's exactly right. We're still on the weekend stuff because Turkey is still working to get a deal done with the UN, with Russia, with Ukraine to keep the grain moving out of the Black Sea. What's the development there?
Well, we have until what, March 18th? I'm a little jaded on this topic, Chip, because I know I'm from DC, so we tend to be jaded. But this is following the script almost bullet by bullet in a different bullet fashion, a list of what happened the last time. Turkey come in saying, we really want this, working hard to do it. UN calls for it. Russia releases statements from Putin saying he doesn't think this is fair to Russia, that we had all that the last time it was renewed. So we're just going to have to let it play out.
Okay. Hey, what's this about a refiner deciding to not go forward with a renewable diesel plant in Canada?
Yeah, I just saw it. I didn't put it in my morning report because I saw it too late. But Parkland Corporation, Chip, announced it will not build the renewable diesel plant near Vancouver. And they cited amongst the reasons why, Chip, the Inflation Reduction Act, because it unfairly favors U.S. producers. Now, remember, the company signaled that expansion in May of 2022, and it looks like they were going to have a capacity of 6,500 barrels per day. So this thing will eventually get into that trade issue area between the U.S. and Canada, because the European Union also cited this in EVs as well, Chip.
Okay. China continues its planning meetings, and they've come out with their new economic forecast or targets for 2023, 5% GDP growth this year. That's the lowest in more than 3 decades. And it's funny. He says the coverage says that it'll be easier for the new economic team to meet these goals because the last economic team failed. You fail, you're the last team. Yeah.
Yes. And they're learning from the Western world to understate what you think, because, let's be honest, logic, if you are a little bearish in your projections, but they are eventually better, no one faults you. But if you're more upbeat and you don't hit them, they'll hit you.
Yeah.
So I think they're learning from the Western world there. Of note, Chip, defense spending is going to grow just a little over 7% this year. From my records, this is the third consecutive year of increases in defense spending, and then that hasn't happened for a decade. And it's going to be about $225 billion. We're still well under the U.S., and it's much higher than the 5.7% growth in public expenditure. So they're clearly signaling their intent to the world that they're going to continue to boost up, their military. They did talk about agriculture in there. That they said they wanted to increase grain production by 50 million tons capacity.
Right.
So and they're going to take avenues to get there, apparently.
Well, with the land issues that you and Brian Grady, Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady, talked about on page 4 of last week's newsletter, it's going to have to come through genetics. It's not going to come from expanded arable land
No,
use in China
you're
or something
absolutely
like
correct.
that.
Yeah, they're going to have to kick it into high gear, and they
Yeah,
will, and they
yeah.
will.
And by the way, it's not that often that I'm going to say "well done" on an art on a page in Pro Farmer. I mean, they're all well done, but to get me to say, "Hey, good one," that page 4 was a good one.
And that was written. We rewrote an excellent article that I first observed in Foreign Policy magazine, Chip.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was an eye opener, and
yeah,
it's must reading at both ends.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes. It certainly is. Okay, we talked a little bit about Vilsack's travels coming up this week, so let's move on to it. He's going to be at the NFU meeting this week, and it, they put out the press release talking about he's going to make some big announcements, but the big announcements I think have already been made, Jim.
They have. They're going to be add-ons,
Yeah,
and this is, Vilsack is out in California today. Nancy Pelosi, by the way, was there on Sunday, and I think she indicated Biden was going to speak to him. Now, I don't know whether in person or on a teleconference. I would imagine a teleconference, but. I found out that USDA is very close to releasing a Vilsack ordered a report on concentration in the meat and
yeah.
seed company industries. Now, I don't know whether if it's going to be released this week, will he put that out later this week at the Commodity Classic in Orlando, or will he do it to NFU because it fits both confabs?
Yeah, but since it's on concentration, I think it might be better received at the NFU than at
Oh,
Commodity Classic. I don't think it'll be ill received anywhere.
no, it will be. On AgriTalk Friday, I said, Vilsack going to NFU event in California is like Trump speaking to CPAC. That's their crowd. That's
Yep,
their crowd.
yep. Which Trump did this weekend, by the way.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah. So looked very familiar to me. Very familiar.
Yeah.
And
Well, that CPAC is now a Trump group for
oh
sure.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. Anything else about Commodity Classic?
No, but
Yeah,
they call USDA the Department of Announcements, and we're
yeah,
seeing it again, both out in California. And will he have another surprise at Commodity Classic? We
right.
don't know, but I always like when an ag secretary attends these major events, and you'll be there, right?
Yeah,
It's a time to get to again resettle with a lot of industry people. Over the weekend, Chip, I didn't
yeah,
put this in any list, and I didn't talk about it today. Brazilian contacts are telling me that Argentine bean crop is a lot lower than
yeah,
anyone realizes. So we're
yeah.
going to have to see.
There's some people that make their business watching the size of the crop. Uh, that figured 30 million metric tons was the absolute worst case scenario with their management techniques, with their technology, with everything that goes into growing that bean crop down there now. They just figured it couldn't be worse than 30 million tons. And they're now saying it's going to be worse than 30 million tons.
26 to 30 is what I'm hearing. I didn't
Yeah,
put that out. I have not put it out because I didn't have time to verify some of the ranges, but
right,
that's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
right. Okay.
If that's
Uh,
the case, that'll be a market factor for sure. And we had
yeah,
a
that's not
two
factored in.
Yeah, export sales announcements today, both corn, one to Japan and one to unknown, which is probably China.
Yeah, there were rumors of it last week, and a little bit of the Brazilian bean harvest was delayed just enough that China might have to buy, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 cargoes of U.S. beans to kind of bridge that gap. So we should be watching for those announcements this week as
And did you
well.
see the news? Tesla reduced the prices again, second time, for two of their most expensive EV models, Chip. And so increasingly, you're getting these EVs competitive to the fossil fuel based cars.
More and more people, and Mark Mills at the Fellows Foundation is continues to bring it up and make a deal about it. But more are starting to tap into the need for the rare earth metals in the battery production. And more are in agreement. I'm not saying that it's a majority. I'm not saying it's a majority yet, but more are in agreement that the same people that are supporting EVs will lose their minds when they see what has to happen to get those metals out of the US.
Well, there's been new findings of lithium, both in India and where other places, Iran. And there are some alternatives being discussed, and I'll put my money on Elon Musk. He'll
Oh,
create some more the use of iron and things like that. So, but let me just tell you a little incident. I went to a
okay.
Hyundai last week, and you can't even get the car I want. I own a 5 or 6. They're just not available. You can't get them. So that's a problem too. There is still logistics problems in the automobile industry, from what I see.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no question about that. The other thing that I would mention is there seems to be, and again, this is from farm state lawmakers. I wouldn't say that the urban state lawmakers are getting on board with this, but there's more optimism around the Next Gen Fuels Act, Jim, that
In what
they're
way?
going to get something passed on that.
Uh, I'd have to do some checking on that, but
Yeah.
there's you could see, you've got the Senate right now with both Tester and Seinfeld, Feinstein out because of
Right.
shingles.
Not Tester. Not
No,
Tester.
no, I'm
Te-
sorry, not Tester. It's
from
the
Pennsylvania.
senator from
Fetterman.
Pennsylvania,
Fetterman.
Fetterman. Yeah. They're both out, so you've got an even Steven Senate. So
Yep.
there could be some deal makings there.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. No doubt. Okay. What else? Anything from
Oh,
Europe that really
well,
caught your
first I
attention?
want to put we've got the Fed chairman testifying
Oh,
twice
yes.
this week in the House and the Senate, and increasingly it looks like the know-it-alls in the private financial markets are coming to again discover that you don't fight the Fed. That it looks like the Fed recently has been more accurate than they are as far as a sticky inflation that's going to last longer, perhaps far longer than most people realize. So that means your interest rates are going to go higher for longer than what the market has built in. That's not good for the stock market, by the way.
Right. Okay. One other one that I want to watch here, because this could be a change in attitude, and this is getting us back into the fossil fuel versus electricity conversation. Number one, there's reports about as they're mapping the ocean off the coast of California, as they're mapping the ocean floor, looking for the best place to put the wind turbines out at sea. They've had a couple of dead whales, wash ashore. So I want to watch the developments on that. Also, President Biden is nearing that decision on, geez, it's a development in Alaska, in the Alaskan wilderness, crude oil development, if that could go forward or not. So there's a couple of key things on the energy front that we need to watch this week too.
Yeah, and I think you'll have that decision, Chip, announced this week. Is what I've been told.
Oh, on the Alaskan wilderness
Yes,
issue.
the
Okay,
180,000 barrel a day willow oil development in
that's
the
it.
Alaskan wilderness. Yeah,
That's it.
it could
Yep.
come today, if sources are correct.
Well, you said that you hate to
I
say,
know,
yeah, yeah.
but
Well,
the oil industry leaks even more than the ag industry.
I love it.
Literally, literally.
Literally, yes, literally. Okay, the last thing that I've got on my list is former Fed Reserve Chair. Happy birthday, Mr. Greenspan. 97 years old today.
Yeah, I'm a young person now compared to him.
You feel pretty good about
I
yourself,
feel
don't you?
pretty good about myself. Yes.
Love it. All right, this
Oh,
morning.
I did want to alert. There's a
Okay.
excellent story in Barron's magazine titled "The Boom Time for Farmers Can Last, who will reap the rewards. So they get in more the industry people, Deere, AGCO, and under industry giants. But the article is very well done. So try to search that story in Barron's. And if you go
Okay.
through Google, sometimes you can, get it free, even though there's a paywall. The boom
Yeah.
time for farmers can last. Okay.
Okay. All right. Today on AgriTalk this morning, we're going to have a conversation with Machinery Pete, of course. And get this, Jim, Bob Elliott. I don't know Bob. The first time we talk is going to be on the air this morning.
Huh.
But Mr. Elliott is the CEO of Unlimited Funds. He's a co-founder of Unlimited Funds as well. Every now and then, I mean, remember our old friend Bob Kaufman, what he used to say, there are no new stories, just new editors.
Yes.
And last week, I saw Mr. Elliott on Fox Business News during the noon hour, and he was talking about they've developed a real-time recession tracker and how it's constantly looking at current data and looking forward rather than looking back, and it gives you a better idea of the real strength of the economy. I mean, that kind of stuff intrigues me. So I got to get him on. We're going to talk about that. And plus,
well, it's data analysis.
Yeah,
Data
absolutely.
analysis. Yeah, with
Absolutely.
the range of data
So
we have.
I'm looking forward to that conversation with Mr. Elliott this morning. And then you'll like this one this afternoon. We've got Chris Barron, AgView Solutions. It's decision time on crop insurance.
Yes.
And Chris is going to step us through some of those.
And he's one of the better guys to do that.
Darn right.
Very astute. And Chip, before we leave, I'm done with my speaking campaign, at least from late last year into early March. And a lot of you viewers and listeners really like our podcast. And we appreciate that. In fact, you've come up to me, given me ideas, etc.
Yep.
And I know we aren't on every Monday, and there's always reasons why. But we're going to take extra effort now from here. At least I'm going to be here, and there are some circumstances that we just can't have.
I'm taking one Monday off this year, next week, and at least I'll be here.
The producer one and me, well, I've been on the speaking circuit way too much. But for the next at least 6 weeks, I'm going to be right here in my home office because I'll be recuperating from a complex tear of a muscle that hopefully I'll get looked at tomorrow. So I may be hurting a little, but I'll be here. So, and I know I've heard from you when you call up that podcast and it's not available, it's not a happy day for you. So we'll focus on it.
Outstanding. Good luck with that procedure tomorrow, Jim. We need you back up and running as quick as you can be.
Well, actually, I told my doctor I look forward to being at home for 6 weeks, and he laughed.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Keep watching for those signals.